This video is going to be on the European Union, and we're on the last chapter of your book, chapter 27, World History. So let's begin. The European Union. As you can see, these pictures are all of it, and they're very strange pictures indeed, because they look like biblical prophecy. Just saying this. Down here we have the building, and see how the building is half built here, representing the Tower of Babel, and how they are going to build their way to God in their own way, right? Kind of crazy, huh? And in this we have Europa riding the bull, which goes on to the woman riding the beast in the Bible, another prophetic thing. And on to the picture here, of course, this crazy monster figure here with the wings, some kind of demonic thing they have going. And on to up here we have this demon figure, half naked, stomping on a baby. So what kind of thing are they wanting to portray for the European Union? That they are above God, maybe? I don't know, but crazy things are indeed going on there. And so now you see the members of the European Union are quite cover most of Europe, even now. So we're going to be talking about the European Union, how it started, the managed marketplace, the changes in Western Europe, and on to changes in Eastern Europe. But we're going to do those in a different video. So we're just going to be talking about the European Union in this video. A managed marketplace, the EU. So let's focus here so you can see the pictures. I hope you get this focused in right. The global economy increased the competition. So this promoted a movement towards further European economic integration. So the result, they made what's called the Maastricht Treaty in December of 1991. This set in motion a plan to form a European central bank with a single unified currency for all the members of the European Economic Community by January of 1999. Some nations, notably Great Britain, feared the loss of the national sovereignty with a united currency and other oppressive provisions of that document. But Germany was the first to accept the plan, and on went the other European countries that promoted and went to this European currency, united single currency for all of Europe. The European Union in 1994. In 1994, plans were also made for a European Parliament with the power to enact a social legislation throughout Europe. They're a parliament that would cover all of Europe, to control all of Europe. In 1994, the EEC became known as the European Union. Not all Europeans approved of this plan to establish the United States of Europe, they would call. That was their goal, to be the United States of Europe. Former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher insisted that willing and active cooperation between sovereign states is the best way to build a successful community. She was totally against this European Union, saying the best way is just for sovereign states, national states, to negotiate and get along. The European unity was further complicated when several Eastern European nations, freed from the Soviet control, applied for the membership. So now they're worried, will communist states come in, socialist states, communist states, all coming into this European Union. Changes in Western Europe with Great Britain. Okay, we're going to focus on just the changes that were going on here. So now we see from a more conservative to a more liberal Labour Party in Great Britain. Margaret Thatcher was succeeded by John Major in 1990. And in 1997, Tony Blair was elected Prime Minister, and again in 2001 and 2005, making him the longest ruling Labour Prime Minister. So before we had the Conservative Party, now we're going into a Liberal Party in England. Under Blair, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland were allowed to have their own regional parliaments while still under the control of the National Parliament in London. He also pursued policies that sought to reconcile the controversy over Northern Ireland. But under Blair, Britain's economy did improve. However, mostly because of his support of the United States' efforts in fighting terrorism, Blair had to resign because basically the Labour Party did not support the Bush doctrine of against terrorism in the way. So he continued to face problems surrounding terrorism and whether or not Great Britain now would adopt the European Union. So now the Labour Party coming into having even Great Britain looking to adopt this European Union. Great Britain and France. Though at this time, there was another thing happened that united Great Britain and France. That improved their relations at this time and made this very visible. In 1987, workers began the construction of a 31-mile long tunnel called the Channel. I actually went through that once, so rode on it once. It went beneath the English Channel, linking Great Britain and France. British and French workers labored together, drilling through rocks until December 1st, 1990, when the two workers met and they shook hands 150 feet beneath the floor of the channel, uniting England and France. In 1994, the first high-speed train raced through the channel, cutting traveling time from 7 hours to 3 hours or less. So now we have Great Britain and France, hand in hand, and France going into the EU, of course. But here's a visible. This happened back in 1994. The first. France. EU, like France and Germany, elected more conservative governments than some governments that joined in that were once conservative, I should say. France, though, was a socialist president, Francois Mitterrand, and his 14-year reign came to an end. And he was succeeded by Jacques Chirac from 2007, representative conservative. In 2007, Nicolas Sarkozy was a conservative and pro-America was elected president. So you have this going back with France and from the midst of liberals onto conservatives and back to liberals. So this is what's going on in France. Although France was joining in the United Nations or the EU. In Germany, Chancellor Helmut Kohl led Germany from 1982 to 1998, the longest ruling leader in Germany's post-war history. But complacency gave way to a socialist, Gerhard Schroeder's victory in 1998. In 2005, Angela Merkel became chancellor, making her the first woman chancellor in Germany's history. Merkel was more friendly to the United States and was wary of Russia as the opposite of Schroeder, but she too would be involved in the European Union. Regional governments or global controls. So Europe continued to implement free market reforms. Although there was still a dependency on democratic socialism, which they called managed capitalism during this time, there was this coalition of private industry and government developing under this managed capitalism. Global competition and transitional cooperation served as the justification for increased economic cooperation and went beyond the original idea of European sovereign nations operating with a free trade alliance. So The European Union called for the integration of nations into a single financial entity with a European Parliament capable of imposing sanctions on non-cooperative member nations. So the European Union calling for the integrations of nations into this single financial entity, which they would call the European Union, or the Global Competition and Transitional Corporation, would serve as a justification for the increased cooperation. So basically they're saying, if you join the EU, we will protect you and we will cooperate. But if you do not join the EU, then you will be going against the foe. And the idea of a global European sovereign idea of sovereign nations operating with the Free Trade Alliance. So basically they're saying the European Union and the countries want Europe to go global. As you see the pictures there, going global. Okay, I'm going to stop there because I'm going to go on to Yugoslavia, and Yugoslavia is going to take more time. But at least you see there, the European Union is basically the beginning of globalism, not only in Europe, but the world. And now, these days, as we focus on the EU, we can see definitely that humanistic and liberalistic ideas going against, actually against the flow of conservative, especially Bible-believing Christians, right? So anyway, let's stop there.